What if I told you you're in a battle right now? Not a battle with another person, not with your boss, not with your circumstances, but with something far more dangerous: distraction. Every time you reach for your phone without thinking, every time you open 12 browser tabs and forget why, every time you tell yourself just 5 more minutes on social media, you're losing the battle not because you're weak, but because the system is rigged. The truth is, your attention has become a commodity. Tech companies fight for it. Advertisers manipulate it. Your own habits betray it. And if you don't take control, someone else will. But here's the twist. You don't need more motivation. You need clarity. You don't need more hours in the day. You need mastery over your mind. In this audiobook summary of Atomic Focus, based on the insights of Damon Zahariades, we're not just going to talk about focus like some fluffy ideal. We're going to strip it down, expose why it's so hard to focus in the first place, and most importantly, how to fix it. You'll learn why multitasking is a lie, why discipline is overrated without structure, and why even the smallest distraction is enough to derail your entire day. But you'll also learn the cure, a system that works with your brain, not against it. And by the end of this journey, you won't just understand how to focus, you'll become the kind of person who lives with purpose, intention, and peace of mind. Because in a world that's constantly screaming for your attention, true power belongs to the one who can stay focused. So put everything else aside and listen closely. This just might be the moment your life begins to change. Why focus fails, and it's not your fault. You want to be focused. You want to be productive. You want to sit down, block everything out, and get the important work done. But then it happens. Again. You reach for your phone without even thinking. You check one message, then 2. Then suddenly, you're watching videos that have nothing to do with your goals. You come back to your task, but now your mind feels foggy, like your focus has scattered into 100 pieces. And you think to yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just concentrate? Here's the truth. Nothing is wrong with you. You're just living in a world that's designed to break your focus. According to Zahariades, distraction isn't just a bad habit, it's an engineered outcome. Every app on your phone, every notification bubble, every autoplay video, they're carefully crafted to steal your attention and keep you hooked. And they're incredibly good at it. Your brain is wired for novelty. Every time something new appears, a message, a sound, a red dot, your brain lights up. It floods you with dopamine, the reward chemical that says, hey, that felt good. Let's do it again. So even though you know that deep work matters, your brain keeps chasing the quick hit instead. And every time you switch tasks, every time you just check something real quick, you leave a piece of your attention behind. Zahariades calls this attention residue. It's like trying to write a serious article with 10 sticky notes floating in your head, reminders of what you just saw, what you haven't finished, and what you should be doing. That's why multitasking doesn't make you faster. It makes you scattered. It drains your mental battery. It increases errors. It kills creativity. And worst of all, it creates the illusion of productivity while actually making you less effective. So no, it's not that you're lazy. It's not that you lack discipline. It's that you've been trying to fight distraction without understanding the system that causes it. And that's exactly where Atomic Focus begins to turn things around. Because the solution isn't to magically try harder. It's to build a new system, one that works with your brain, not against it. One that removes friction, reduces decision fatigue, and makes focus the easy choice, not the exhausting one. Zahariades reminds us, your willpower is not infinite. It fades throughout the day. It gets weaker with stress, hunger, and fatigue. So if your ability to focus depends on brute force, you're setting yourself up to fail. But if you build a system, a routine, an environment, a mindset, then focus becomes a default, something automatic, something repeatable. Not a daily struggle, but a natural rhythm. This is the first major shift. Don't blame yourself. Rebuild the system. And that's exactly what we'll dive into next. How to create a system that protects your attention, fuels your focus, and helps you get into deep work without feeling like you're forcing it. Because once you understand how to set the stage, the real work, the meaningful work, becomes not just possible, but sustainable. The power of systems over willpower. Most people think focus is about self-control, that if they just had more willpower, they could finally stop procrastinating. They could sit down and work for hours. They could stop checking their phones. They could finish what they start. But Damon Zahariades makes one thing absolutely clear. Willpower is not the answer. Because willpower is like a battery. It runs out. And in today's world, that battery drains fast. You spend all day making decisions. What to wear, what to eat, what to reply to, what to ignore. Every tiny decision chips away at your mental energy. So by the time you sit down to focus, you're already tired. And when you're tired, your brain doesn't want discipline. It wants comfort. It wants easy. It wants dopamine. This is why so many people start the day strong and end it lost in endless scrolling. It's not a failure of character. It's a failure of structure. Zahariades says this, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the strength of your systems. If your environment is full of distractions, if your routines are reactive instead of intentional, if your brain is constantly switching between tasks, then it doesn't matter how motivated you are. You'll always be stuck in shallow work. But when you build a system, a simple, repeatable process that protects your attention, you don't have to rely on motivation. You don't need heroic amounts of self-control. You just follow the path you've already prepared. Think of it like this. If your workspace is messy, your phone is within arm's reach, and your to-do list is a mile long. That's like trying to run a marathon with rocks in your shoes. But if your environment is clear, your phone is out of sight, and your tasks are already prioritized. Now, focus becomes natural. You remove friction. You reduce resistance, and that's when the magic starts to happen. In Atomic Focus, Zahariades introduces the idea of creating a focus ritual, a short, predictable routine that signals to your brain it's time to work deeply. No distractions, no switching, just this. That ritual might be as simple as clearing your desk, putting your phone in another room, turning on one playlist you always use when working, opening a blank document, and setting a 25-minute timer. It sounds small, but repeated daily, it becomes powerful. Your brain learns the pattern. It associates the ritual with deep focus, and over time, it becomes a mental trigger, a switch that flips you into the zone. This is the essence of systems thinking. You don't hope for focus. You build the conditions that create it. Because once the system is in place, you don't have to fight yourself anymore. You just show up and let the process do the heavy lifting. And that's the shift. Stop relying on willpower. Start designing your environment. Stop trying to force focus. Start making focus automatic. Up next, we'll talk about exactly how to design that environment, from your physical space to your digital life, so your surroundings help you stay focused instead of constantly pulling you away. Designing your environment for deep focus. If focus is the goal, then your environment is either your greatest ally or your most dangerous enemy. It's easy to think that distractions are just about discipline, but in truth, most distractions are designed into your surroundings, often without you realizing it. And Damon Zahariades drives this point home. If you want to do focused work, you need to create a focused space. That means your environment should send one clear message to your brain. This is where important work happens. Think about your current workspace. Is it cluttered? Are there papers, chargers, snacks, headphones, and sticky notes fighting for your attention? Is your phone nearby, lighting up with every new notification? Then, even before you begin, your mind is already scattered. Zahariades explains that visual noise is mental noise. Every object in your line of sight takes up a little bit of cognitive space. It creates tension. It reminds you of something else. And slowly, your attention starts leaking away. So the first step, clear the space. Not to be minimalist for aesthetic reasons, but to give your brain breathing room. Remove anything unrelated to the task at hand. If you're writing, you don't need your phone, your calendar, or yesterday's to-do list in your view, just your notes, your screen, and the work in front of you. And speaking of phones, let's be real. Your phone is a focus killer. Even when it's face down, even when it's on silent, just knowing it's there, within reach, creates mental drag. Zahariades recommends what sounds radical, but is actually simple. Put your phone in another room. Don't just silence it. Separate yourself from it completely. The goal is not to eliminate all distractions forever. That's impossible. The goal is to control what you can and stack the odds in your favor. This also includes your digital workspace. If you've got 15 browser tabs open, 5 apps running in the background, and notifications popping up on your desktop, you're setting yourself up for fragmented thinking. Instead, try this. One browser window, one table, one task. Turn off all notifications except emergencies. Use apps that block distractions. Or better yet, unplug from the internet when possible, because deep focus doesn't just happen in your mind, it happens in how you set the stage. And there's another layer to this: the people around you. If you're constantly being interrupted by coworkers, roommates, or family, you'll never get into the zone. So Zahariades encourages you to set clear boundaries. Let people know, this is my focus time. Please don't interrupt me unless it's urgent. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, people will respect your space, and more importantly, you will respect your time. The big idea here is simple but powerful. Don't rely on yourself to block distractions. Design your environment so distractions never reach you in the first place. Because focus isn't just about mindset, it's about what surrounds you. And when your surroundings support you, focus stops being a struggle and starts becoming your default. Next, we'll go deeper into your mental environment. Because even with a clean desk and no phone, your biggest distractions might still live inside your own head. Creating a mental operating system. Even if your workspace is spotless, even if your phone is out of sight and the world is quiet, there's still one place where distraction hides: inside your mind. Because focus isn't just external, it's internal. Your thoughts, your emotions, your self-talk, they're all part of what Damon Zahariades calls your mental operating system. And if that system is chaotic, scattered, or overwhelmed, no amount of silence will bring you clarity. So how do you rebuild it? It starts with clarity of purpose. You can't stay focused if you don't know what you're focusing on, or why it even matters. Zahariades emphasizes this. Before you start any task, ask yourself two simple questions. What exactly am I trying to accomplish? Why is it important right now? These aren't just fluffy motivational lines. They are filters, mental cues that cut through noise and center your brain. Because your mind craves direction. If you don't give it a clear goal, it will wander. It will chase the next dopamine hit. It will look for stimulation. And that's when distractions creep in. But when your brain knows what matters and why, it stops fighting you and starts helping you. Next comes priority management. We live in a world that confuses urgency with importance. The email that just arrived feels more pressing than the project due next week. The tiny task that takes 2 minutes feels more achievable than the big one that moves your life forward. But here's the trap. If you constantly react to what's urgent, you'll never do what's important. Zahariades suggests starting each day by identifying your one critical task, the one thing that, if completed, will make the day feel successful. Then block time for it. Guard it. Let everything else orbit around it, not the other way around. This single shift, putting your highest priority front and center, changes everything. But focus also requires emotional discipline. You can't get into deep work if your mind is flooded with anxiety, self-doubt, or mental clutter. So part of your mental system must include decluttering your thoughts. Write them down. Use a journal. Create a brain dump every morning or night. Capture the loose thoughts so they stop circling in your mind. This clears the runway for deeper thinking, because when your mental space is clean, your attention has room to breathe. And finally, Zahariades reminds us to watch out for one sneaky mental trap: the fear of discomfort. Real focus feels hard. It can be boring. It can feel lonely. It can trigger self-doubt. So we escape, not because we're lazy, but because we're avoiding the discomfort of growth. But if you embrace that discomfort, if you sit with it, breathe through it, keep showing up, you begin to rewire your brain. You teach it that challenge is safe, that depth is worth it, that you are stronger than distraction. And that's when focus becomes something deeper than a skill. It becomes a mindset, a way of moving through the world with clarity, presence, and power. So remember this: you don't just need a clean desk. You need a clean mind, one that's aligned, intentional, and resilient. Next, we'll talk about one of the greatest enemies of focus, time killers, and how to eliminate them before they quietly drain away your day. Eliminating time killers. You ever finish a long day, exhausted, but with nothing meaningful to show for it? You were busy. You were moving. You were doing things. But at the end, your most important work, the deep, focused work, never happened. That's the curse of time killers. Those invisible habits and behaviors that slowly, quietly waste your day, while convincing you that you're being productive. Damon Zahariades exposes these silent thieves, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Let's start with the big one: multitasking. Most people still think multitasking makes them efficient. They write an email while listening to a podcast, reply to a message while flipping through a spreadsheet, start one project while halfway through another. But here's what the science says. Multitasking doesn't save time. It kills it. Every time you switch between tasks, even for a second, your brain goes through a recovery phase. It has to let go of one task, reload the context of the next, and reorient itself. It's called attention residue, and it builds up fast. Imagine trying to read 5 books at once, 1 page at a time, switching every minute. You'll never get deep into any of them. And that's exactly how most people live their workday: shallow, scattered, and exhausted. Zahariades says this clearly: if you want to move fast, move with focus. One task, one window, one purpose. That's how deep work happens. That's how momentum builds. That's how you finish things. Next, let's talk about dopamine distractions. These are those tiny, just for a second moments. Checking your phone, opening social media, reading one more news headline, clicking that suggested video. Each one takes just a few seconds, but each one pulls you out of flow and teaches your brain to crave the shallow over the deep. Worse, they feel good. They give you little hits of dopamine, so you think you're relaxing. But really, you're reinforcing the habit of escaping discomfort. Zahariades recommends doing something bold. Batch your distractions. Instead of constantly checking messages, schedule 2 times a day to deal with them. Instead of randomly jumping between browser tabs, block 30 to 60 minutes for focused work. No interruptions allowed. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. And here's another time killer you might not expect: overcommitting. Saying yes to every task, every meeting, every favor. Spreading yourself thin across so many priorities that none of them get your best energy. This is why Zahariades encourages you to guard your time like your life depends on it, because it does. Time is the one thing you can't earn back. So every yes must be measured. Every task must be weighed. Focus isn't just about what you do. It's about what you choose not to do, because doing a little bit of everything is the fastest way to master nothing. So here's the core message of this chapter: kill the small distractions before they kill your momentum. Eliminate the urgent but unimportant. And above all, stop multitasking. It's not making you faster, it's making you fragmented. In the next part, we'll take all of this and turn it into something powerful, a focus-building habit system that trains your brain day by day to stay in the zone and love it. Because the goal isn't just to escape distraction, it's to build a life where focus feels natural. Building the focus habit without burning out. Focus isn't just something you master once. It's something you practice day by day, like a muscle. But the mistake most people make, they try to overhaul their entire life overnight. They set huge goals, create rigid schedules, and demand perfect discipline. And then they burn out. That's not how real focus is built. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. Tiny, repeatable actions that compound over time. Damon Zahariades teaches that sustainable focus begins with one principle: make it small enough to win. Make it repeatable enough to last. Instead of saying, "I'll work for 4 hours straight," say, "I'll do 15 minutes of deep work, no distractions, then do it again tomorrow, then again the next day." And slowly, that 15 becomes 25, then 40, then 90. That's the power of atomic focus. Not just intense bursts, but small, focused blocks that stack into real momentum. This is where the idea of habit stacking comes in. It's simple. Take a habit you already do, like making coffee, brushing your teeth, or opening your laptop, and attach a focus habit to it. Example: after I make coffee, I'll clear my desk. After I open my laptop, I'll set a 25-minute timer for deep work. After I finish lunch, I'll take 5 minutes to reset and journal my priorities. These small cues create rhythm. They link your habits together like steps in a dance. And soon, you don't need motivation. You just follow the pattern. And here's something else most people overlook. You need to align your focus with your energy. Zahariades says, Not all hours are equal. You have windows, times when your brain is sharp, alert, ready to go. And then you have valleys, when you're sluggish, distracted, mentally tired. The secret is to schedule your most important work during your energy peaks. That way, you don't have to fight yourself to stay focused. You're flowing with your natural rhythm, not against it. For some people, that peak is early morning. For others, it's mid-afternoon or late at night. There's no universal rule. But once you identify it, protect that window like gold. Lastly, Zahariades reminds us to treat focus like a craft, not a punishment. This isn't about forcing yourself. It's about building a relationship with your work, one that feels clean, intentional, satisfying. Because when focus becomes a habit, you start to crave clarity. You feel uncomfortable with chaos. You begin to trust yourself, and that trust builds confidence day after day. Focus isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle shift built from the smallest choices, repeated with care. Next, we'll talk about how to guard your time like a fortress, how to say no, deal with interruptions, and stop letting other people's chaos hijack your calendar. Because once you've built focus, you've got to protect it. Guarding your time like a fortress. You've done the hard work. You've cleared distractions. You've built your environment. You've created the habits that lead to deep, meaningful focus. But now comes the real test. Can you protect it? Because no matter how strong your system is, the world will push back. People will interrupt you. Meetings will pop up. Notifications will sneak in. Urgent but unimportant tasks will demand your attention. And if you don't learn to say no firmly, calmly, and consistently, you'll find yourself pulled back into chaos, even after you built your way out of it. Damon Zahariades is clear. Protecting your focus means protecting your time, not just for productivity, but for your peace of mind, your creativity, your well-being. Let's start with one of the most uncomfortable but powerful skills. Saying no. Most people struggle with it. We don't want to disappoint anyone. We don't want to seem rude or unhelpful, so we say yes to too much, too often, too quickly. And every yes you give out of guilt or fear is a no to your own priorities. Zahariades recommends having pre-decided boundaries, clear, simple rules about what you say yes to and what you don't. For example, I don't take meetings in the morning. That's my focus time. I don't reply to messages while doing deep work. I only check emails twice a day, not every 10 minutes. These aren't selfish. They're protective. Because your time is limited. Your energy is finite. And your goals, they need you to show up with full presence. You can't do that if you're constantly being pulled in a dozen directions. Another strategy Zahariades shares is preemptive communication. Let people know your focus boundaries ahead of time, whether it's coworkers, clients, family, or friends. Make it clear. When I'm working during this block, I'm not available unless it's urgent. You'll be surprised how much people respect your time when you do first. Next comes interruption management. Interruptions aren't always external. Sometimes they're internal, a restless urge to check something, fix something, respond right now. Here's a simple trick, the 10-minute rule. When a thought pops up that's not urgent, write it down and promise yourself you'll deal with it after 10 minutes of focused work. Most of the time, the urge passes, and what felt urgent in the moment was just noise. Finally, Zahariades encourages you to treat your calendar like a defensive wall. Don't let it fill itself. You decide what goes in. You decide what gets your time. If it's not aligned with your priorities, it doesn't belong. Because your calendar isn't just a tool for scheduling. It's a reflection of your values. And when your calendar is filled with things that matter and protected from things that don't, you stop feeling reactive. You start feeling powerful. You start working with clarity, living with direction. And that's what focus is really about. It's not just doing more, it's doing what matters fully, completely, without compromise. And to do that, you must guard your time like a fortress, because no one else will do it for you. Next, we'll wrap up this journey with the final shift. How to live with purpose-driven focus, where your attention, your energy, and your actions all serve something bigger than productivity. Purpose-driven focus. By now, you've learned how to remove distractions. You've learned how to build focus-friendly habits. You've learned how to protect your time like a fortress. But Damon Zahariades leaves us with one final, and perhaps the most powerful, idea. Focus isn't just a tool. It's a way of life. It's easy to think of focus as something you use to get more done. And yes, you will be more productive. You'll finish things faster. You'll waste less time. But the real gift of focus? It gives your life back to you. When you live with focus, you're no longer bouncing from one demand to the next. You're no longer pulled by notifications, opinions, and noise. Instead, you move with clarity. You make decisions based on what matters. You pour your energy into things that last, and suddenly, work becomes more meaningful. Relationships become more present. Even rest becomes deeper, because your mind is no longer scattered across 1,000 tabs. This is purpose-driven focus. Not just working harder, but working aligned with who you are and what you value most. Zahariades reminds us that when you remove the clutter, both external and internal, you uncover something powerful, your true priorities. What do you care about? What are you building? What legacy are you shaping, minute by minute, with your attention? Because attention is life. What you focus on grows. What you ignore fades. And what you repeatedly give your energy to becomes your reality. So the real question is, are you focusing on what truly matters? If not, now is the time to change. You don't need to wait until you're ready. You don't need the perfect setup or the perfect schedule. You just need to decide right now that your attention is yours. Not the internet's, not your inboxes, not the algorithms. Yours. And when you take it back, you take back control. You take back peace. You take back your ability to create, to grow, to love, to live, fully present and fully awake. That's the power of focus, not just as a productivity hack, but as a declaration of who you are and who you're becoming. So let's take a breath and look back at what this journey has revealed. In a world that's noisier, busier, and more distracted than ever, you've just rediscovered a rare and powerful truth. Focus is freedom. Not just freedom to get more done, but freedom to think clearly, to live intentionally, to move through your day with purpose instead of pressure. Atomic Focus by Damon Zahariades isn't about perfection. It's not about being hyper-productive or squeezing every second dry. It's about waking up. It's about breaking free from the lies that keep you scattered and building a life that's rooted in clarity, discipline, and peace. Because when you stop multitasking, when you design your space, your routines, and your mind to support deep work, when you protect your time with healthy boundaries and say no to what doesn't matter, you start to become something rare, a person who finishes what they start, a person who creates with depth, a person who's here, not drifting through the day but directing it. And it all begins with one decision: to take back your attention, to choose focus, not once, but every day, not as a task, but as a way of living. So as you step away from this summary, ask yourself, what's one thing you've been putting off? One project, one goal, one dream that deserves your full attention? Start there. Start small. But start focused, because your time is too precious to waste, and your potential is far too powerful to be lost in distraction. Thank you for listening to this audiobook summary of Atomic Focus. If this message spoke to you, if it shifted something inside, if it made you think differently about your time and attention, then carry it forward. Focus forward. Live forward. And remember, in a world where everyone's chasing noise, the real power belongs to the one who can stay focused.